Hello and welcome back to Nerd News Today, Toy Fair 2021. And now today we're going to be highlighting our charity of the day. And today we're talking about Child's Play, which their slogan is Play Games, Feel Better. Wonderful slogan, wonderful organization. And joining us to talk about this group is Travis Erickson, who's the executive director of Child's Play. Travis, how's it going today?
Great. Thanks for having me on.
It's so good to be able to chat with you. Like, I first found out about you because I watch a lot of Twitch streamers. I don't play a lot of video games these days, but I'm watching a lot of it. Somehow that works out for me. And I found out about you, in fact, because of twitch.tv/Serge Jaeger. And I think you guys did some stuff with Kate as well. Yeah, so let's just ask you the first question I'm asking all my guests this weekend. And that's, Travis, what was your favorite toy growing up as a kid?
I'm going to say it was definitely Legos. Hands down, classic, easy to go. Yeah, it is still to this day a thing that I enjoy playing with my kids. So
now, what about your favorite video game?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Or I'll make it even tougher for you. I'll throw it to you this way. What was the first video game you ever had?
The first game that I really remember playing is the original King's Quest in a nice black and green screen. I know we had some other, kind of Pong style, etc. But the first one that I really think that I felt that ownership in was with Graham Cracker there and making his way through the kingdom.
Did you actually know what you were doing back then? Because those games are pure moon logic.
God, it's so funny to think about how, one of the puzzles in there was finding a sleeping guy on the ground, and his name is Rumpelstiltskin backwards with a alphabet cipher, the flipped alphabet cipher. And I have no idea how we, looking back now, I don't know how we figured that out or where that came from, because there was no Reddit to go jump on. There was no, we weren't hopping on bulletin boards yet to go see these things. So, yeah, it is a funny game to look back on now and think how would my kids handle this game so much differently than we would handle it at this point now.
They definitely have an easier time, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So can you tell us now, what is the story behind the creation of Child's Play? And just for folks who don't know what Child's Play is just yet, real quick little thing about that. You guys work with children's hospitals, clinics, domestic violence shelters to essentially bring games into the lives of children, something very much needed. But what was the story behind the creation of this? What's the impetus for Child's Play?
I think that we are one of the fun creation stories for a nonprofit because our creation story is entirely based out of spite. Back in 2003 was one of those times where video games and gamers in general were in the news as being miscreants, the dregs of society with no good qualities whatsoever. And games were, murder simulators who created horrible people. And our founders are the creators of Penny Arcade, Mike Krahulik and Jerry Holkins. Also the founders of PAX, the consumer video game show. But they felt that portrayal of gamers and the game industry was not an accurate representation of them as gamers and their fans. And so they essentially, out of spite, reached out to their community and said, hey, we want to put a positive story in the news about gamers this holiday season. So mid-February, created a wish list with Amazon and Seattle Children's for toys and just said, hey, buy a toy, send it to us, we'll go deliver it to Seattle Children's. And in 2 weeks, they raised a little over $250,000 worth of toys. So imagine this started in just their little one-car garage that got filled with boxes. Tetris skills came into play to get everything in. They had to move into a storage unit. At the end of that 2 weeks, kind of beginning of December, delivered all of these toys to Seattle Children's. If you go hunt around, you can find some pretty cool pictures of them making the deliveries. The therapy pool at Seattle Children's at the time was empty. So the pool is filled with toys, and there's a bunch of, Penny Arcade peoples and, the Mike and Jerry and their wives and friends and things like that. Sitting on the edge of the pool with all these toys piled inside. And from there, they kind of went, oh, well, the community really stepped up. I guess this is a thing that we're going to do. So since 2003, we have been going strong, and we're in, starting year 18 here. We partner with 180 children's hospitals all across the globe. So all across the US, Canada, Australia, Kenya, the UK, Ireland, India, Egypt. We're all over the globe. And we partner with, now at this point, probably about 200 domestic violence shelters all across the US. And Child's Play started just getting games and toys into the hospital. So especially back in 2003, a children's hospital was lucky to have one or two consoles maybe in the playroom, but that's not necessarily even really there. Definitely not a lot of systems that were available on carts to bring into a room or take to a kid who couldn't make it into, who was waiting for a surgery or things like that. So we started with getting games and systems into the hospitals, getting iPads so that Child Life staff, the people that we support, could carry the iPad and have something to sit beside a kid and just sort of have this games available and all those pieces. And in 2015, we started doing some hospital visits, and one of the things we realized then was places are, games and game systems are more available now. We found some hospitals that have, a system in every single room. We found hospitals that have, a handful of systems on carts so they can always be available. But what was missing was the knowledge of how to start really using games intentionally. So they were just a distraction. So one of the first things we did was we created, I should have had it off my, oh no, here we go. I should have had it off my pegboard before I got started. But we created a therapeutic game guide that is a tool for the hospital staff to figure out how can we use games to address things like pain or anxiety, and break down for them the different kinds of games in the way that lots of gamers sort of understand. When I'm feeling kind of down, I can go play this game and it boosts my mood. When I'm really anxious about something, I can play this other kind of game and it reduces that anxiety. And so it was about teaching the hospital staff how to be intentional with games. And it was super well received. We try and get it to anyone and everyone that we can. It's available on the childsplaycharity.org on our website if you want to go click that link and look at it. It's just a really cool tool to help people understand the power that games can have when they're used in a positive sense. It also, for parents who are watching and listening, it's a way that if you don't really get why your kids are playing games, it can help you kind of understand what your kid might be getting out of a game that they're playing. So we think it's a really powerful tool. From there, one of the things that we've done is in the past, 4 years, because we haven't finished the grant cycle yet for this year. So we've done 4 years of grants to get an entirely new profession started inside children's hospitals. And it is loosely termed the pediatric gaming and technology specialist. Each hospital where we have it in has a different name because hospitals have naming systems that they all have to have because, putting specialist on some things in some places is okay. Other times it's not unless you have a degree. But this person is inside the hospital helping figure out how can we push the use of technology and gaming beyond just a distraction. So working with doctors to push the use of virtual reality during procedures, or therapists for virtual reality during physical therapy. Working, they're playing games bedside with kids sometimes just as that person who's there, but also keeping the technology up to date. It's not too bad when you think about updating your Xbox. It's maybe a little bit inconvenient. I want to play tonight. It needs an update. Cool, run that. I'm gonna go make dinner. I'll come back. But when you have a hospital and you have, 75 Xboxes and they all decide they need an update and there's really no one in charge of doing that, sometimes they just stop and they're not functional anymore. And so having someone whose job is to keep things up to date, to work with the IT department to help them figure out how do we get the bandwidth available for these games to be updated? Can we put them online so that kids can play with their friends? Can we help sort of normalize things like that with the kids who are there in the hospital? So the gaming and technology specialists are a really exciting position that we've been working on. We're on nearly 20 of those positions now that Child's Play is funded. There's probably 25 of them across the US right now that we've met. Every now and then we come to a hospital where we find someone who's been doing this in their own little bubble and didn't sort of know there's all these people around that have been doing it. And so we get really excited to connect them together with this community that we're helping build.
Just to back things up for a second too, I think one of the things that you mentioned to me that was very interesting here in this interview was basically that you're also trying to educate and use these games not just as a distraction. So I think that's a really important thing to talk about here because there's a lot more to them. And I think, someone who's not a gamer, they're not going to really see it for what it is. There's still the debate over, are video games art? And, you and I know that they are, but so many people just see it as a distraction. So I think it's really interesting that you guys have managed to basically make this into something that's more insightful for basically a hospital staff, for the children. So I'm kind of curious, what kind of games do you guys use when that comes into the conversation?
It really varies. Part of this is just helping them understand really those key components, right? Because hospitals don't have the latest and greatest games, but if you take a look at our guide, the breakdown of a game that helps reduce pain is a game that has sort of this cognitive overload. There's timers, there's music, there's lights, there's lots of stuff happening. Mario Kart is a great example, right? There's just stuff always going on. I got to get that question mark box. I got to shoot this turtle shell. I got to dodge that banana. I got to drive the whole time. It just fills your brain with so much information that your brain can forget about the pain and kind of let that subside. And studies show that that can reduce the pain score and can last longer than just the time that you're playing the game, so that it actually has an extended benefit beyond that. A game that reduces anxiety is kind of the complete opposite. So it's a game that's kind of open world, pretty sandboxy, not a lot of timers. There might be a mission, but along the mission, if you want to stop and go fishing or whatever else, or it might be just kind of complete open. Minecraft is a great example. Breath of the Wild's a great example of games, right? It's just there. I can play this game. If I want to be in Minecraft and all I want to do is just be in creative mode and try and build, I can just do that and nothing is stopping me from anything, right? I can pull up all the palettes that I want and I can just play, and that helps lower that level of anxiety. And so if I am a kid who's getting ready for, kind of a scary procedure and I'm feeling really anxious, a game like that given to them can just help reduce the need for things like medication that can lower anxiety, which, is always scary to give someone, but especially scary with a kid, right? And so being intentional about giving them a game like a Minecraft can help. But if I just think, hey, you're here and you're, kind of anxious and I don't know, let's give you this Mario Kart. Mario Kart can build up that anxiety unintentionally. Like my best intention was, I want to give you a game to distract you. But I gave you this game that now has built up this tension inside and it's building into that anxiety, where if I, looking through the tool, I can look at the components of a calming game and see and go, oh, let's not do that one. Let's do this one. And so that's really the purpose of the guide, is to help them understand, you and your hospital may not have every single game that we have listed, but you can look at the components of the games that you do have and then be intentional when you're picking them.
And so I was reading some of the testimonials that are on the Child's Play website, and it's been really great just reading about how the gaming community has essentially come together and really support these people in these very challenging situations, not just for the children too, but also for the parents and the caretakers, because you guys are really, I think, lifting a lot of the load off of them with this type of thing that you're doing.
Kids want to play games, right? That's a thing that a kid wants to do anyways, even if they weren't in the hospital. And so part of this is just helping normalize the time that they are in the hospital. But we also sort of have empowered parents and staffs to accept the fact that games can be a tool.
Yeah.
We get, when we do hospital visits, we often get a question from someone, generally an older person who's on staff there, who goes, well, but aren't you concerned about too much screen time? And we often have to remind them, even though these are, well-meaning and super educated and so much aware of where kids are and what kids are in going through in the hospital, that this is, this kid can't go outside and play soccer. So if you give them, in a perfect world, they go outside and play soccer for an hour. But if you let them play FIFA for an hour, that's soccer. That's them connecting with that piece that is still part of their life, and they're no longer disconnected from this sport that they love, Madden or NBA, whatever, right? That's giving them this opportunity to do something that they would be doing if they couldn't. And if we can, it's still a challenge inside some hospitals, but getting them connected online so that they can play online with their friends is this huge thing. We've really seen a big push over the last year as COVID has hit, and so many hospitals have been locked down on the ability for visitors to come in, that there's been more of an acceptance of, oh, everybody is connecting virtually now. Everybody is having Zoom meetings and calls and things like that. I get now more why kids need this connection piece. So that's been one of the silver linings from Child's Play's side, to see that, oh, it's less pushback now to people understand why is it important that this game is connected online.
And I'm glad you brought up the pandemic, because, of course, we are in the middle of it still, and we're a little bit more optimistic that things will get better this year, but still a long ways to go. So how has the COVID-19 pandemic affected Child's Play, and how has the organization adapted to meet this new challenge?
Child's Play really hit the pandemic at I mean, we were in a very lucky place. One, we've always been a virtual charity. We have people doing virtual fundraisers for us all the time. We have one in-person event that we do. If you don't count conventions that we go to all the PAX conventions. So, the end of the year PAX conventions, we missed out on going to those. But we have one in-person fundraiser that we do in December that is our, black tie dinner auction that we had to learn how to do virtually. But as a whole, we have the people who fundraise for us are people playing video games, putting on streams, and the pandemic got a lot more people at home playing a lot more video games, looking to do something good. So Child's Play became hey, I can play my games this weekend, and I'll put a little thing on the bottom, donate button, donate to Child's Play, and have that positive impact. So we were really lucky in that space that we were in. I know a lot of other nonprofits that we are connected with, and just that I know in the Seattle area here had a much harder time when what they rely on is in-person events or concerts or things like that. So got a lot of questions from people in the nonprofit sector that were like, oh, what does this mean? How do we do this? How do we let people put stuff on for us if we're not controlling it? And we've been very much since the beginning here are the tools you need to support us. Put on a stream. Here's our logos. Here's our stuff. You can have it. Talk about us. We'll give you blurbs if you want to. We'll retweet your tweets and give you that support that way. But we're not going to come in and micromanage your stream and say you have to do it like this and it has to be done in this fashion. And so we were very lucky in that sense. The biggest impact for us was through the summertime. So between PAX East and PAX West is our chunk to go visit our hospitals that we partner with. And it was a huge bummer this year to not be able to do that. Or I suppose last year at this point, we're past 2020 officially, but we had to switch quickly. It was hospitals sometimes move at a glacial pace, so it was a little bit slower to make the connections of, hey, we want to really connect through online meetings while we can. And there's, like everyone knows, there's a piece that is missed between the in-person, let's sit down, let's have lunch together, let's talk about what you're doing in your hospital, let's share what we've seen over here at this other hospital, versus doing it over a Zoom call. But we were, that was the big adjustment for us through the summertime.
Now, last year, back in March, you guys did the Gamers Give Back Day. So I'm curious if you have plans to do that again this coming March, or any other events that you can maybe tell us about for this year.
Yeah, it's we're doing our second Gamers Give Back Day. It's going to be March 27th. I just jumped off a call with the team while they were still planning it. We're getting the last little bits ironed out. It's interesting. Child's Play has, for so long opened the doors and just kind of let everybody fundraise for us at any time. And one of the things that we often get questions on inside a PAX when someone comes up is like, oh, what day do I stream for you? And that open window of, pick a day, what works for you. You stream on Wednesdays, do it on a Wednesday. That's great. Who cares? Sometimes it's too much freedom for people, right? They need that target date of, hey, this is the day it's going to happen. So that's last year we decided to try that with the Gamers Give Back Day. And we had good success there. We're trying again this year to see, just to give people a target if they need it. But we welcome and love the support year round. And we see it year round from people doing streams for us. So yeah, the end of March, it'll be there. We're actually putting together this time for the first time. Child's Play is working on putting together sort of an incentive, like, hey, if you raise X, we'll send you this cool prize. That's one of those things when you have extra time on your hand and you're not traveling, is you get to dream big and go, what if we had an incentive program? What would it look like? And now we're getting into that window of, oh God, we got to execute on that plan that we put together. Let's make sure it all works. But we're excited for it. And we'll be having announcements about it coming up soon. So March 27th this year.
All right, so everybody stay tuned. I'm sure we're going to hear a lot about that coming up in March on Twitch. So yeah, excited to see what happens this year with it. And 2021, we're off to an optimistic start right now. Things are looking better. Still some things in question, but things are definitely much better than they were this time last year. But what's the mission plan for Child's Play this year, and the outlook for how Child's Play is going to fit into how this strange new world exists that we live in today?
Well, we have our grant period open right now until March 15th, our first quarter grant period, which is where we are looking for these pediatric gaming and technology specialist applications. We're a little unsure right now how many applications we'll get. In the past couple of years, we get generally about 30 applications, and we can fund 5 if we're lucky. Just the demand is so huge, and our limitation is the dollars that we have available. This year, we have run into a lot of hospitals that we partner with being on hiring freezes and things like that due to COVID. So we're not entirely sure how many applications we'll get this year, but we're looking forward to seeing the ones that come in. We know we feel pretty good about the applications that have come in, that they're really ready to move forward. A lot of hospitals have seen the impact and the need of having someone with this extra knowledge inside the hospital about how to use technology. And COVID just highlighted that even more than prior to having it available. So I expect that we'll be seeing a similar amount of grants coming in for that piece. So that's really our first quarter of the year focus, is looking at those, connecting with those hospitals and making sure that they're really ready to get that position in place and hired, so that they can have that huge impact on their kids.
So for anybody out there today who wants to apply for a grant, who wants to donate, who wants to learn more about how they can help with the organization, and basically wants to take action with Child's Play, how can they find out more about you guys?
The best place is childsplaycharity.org. You can hop onto our site and learn more about what we're doing. Find our socials down there at the bottom. Twitter is always a good one. We stay well updated on there, just to hear where we're going. We also post any of those job positions once they do come up, those game tech positions. So if that's something you're interested in, keep an eye on our Twitter there, because we do say, hey, it looks like there's a position being posted here. In Seattle was one that was just posted in and hired for. So we want to get them out there so that people who are interested in being involved in hospitals in that way can see that they're coming.
That's a pretty big thing that someone can do. Yeah. And just also for folks who are curious, I think you guys are a registered 501c, correct? So this is a tax deductible donation if someone decides to donate, correct?
Inside the US, we are a registered 501c3.
Okay, so really, folks, there's a lot of great things coming from Child's Play, and I can't wait to see again end of March what's going to happen with this year's big event. And it's just great seeing all the Twitch people come together, all the fans and the chat rooms coming together. It's a real positive, uplifting thing, and I think it's something we definitely need as a gaming community to have that kind of feel good moment to know that what we're doing is not just for our own fun; it's really helping other people.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anybody has any questions, they can find our connections on the website. You can find my email on there, or the generic, Child's Play info email if you want to just send out and learn a little bit more about what we are doing, or connect with us and ask how to put a fundraiser on. We've got a guide we can send you if you've never run one before, or you're just trying to figure out, hey, I stream a little bit here or there. I don't know if my community is big enough to even put on the support. It definitely is. When we always encourage people, put one on and think small. We have an amazing fundraiser that runs every year called Desert Bus for Hope. It happens in November. It's put on by the Loading Ready Run team and friends, and they raised over $1 million this year. Don't expect that to happen if you're putting on your first stream. They are multiple years in here, and it is something that is amazing and outstanding. But they started small and build with that community and get them engaged and involved, and it's a huge impact. It doesn't necessarily seem like much if what you did was raise $300, but when you think about that in terms of a system, that's a console, right? That just bought an Xbox One to put inside a hospital. They're not ready for the newest system, so we don't need the $500 mark. We're not putting PS5s in there. No one can find them anyways. But that buys an Xbox One or a Switch or a PS4 and gets it in there so that kids have those available to play. So every little bit counts. And if you need help or want to know how to put on, we have a pretty great fundraising guide that we're happy to share out.
So a lot of different ways that folks can take action, not just with donating, but also just with their time. And hey, you get to play games and help out a charity. You can't beat that. That's pretty great.
Yeah, and like you said, if even if you're not a streamer, you can find a stream online of someone playing a game that you like that is probably supporting Child's Play, and go in there and support that streamer and support Child's Play at the same time by watching them play.
Well, Travis, thanks so much for telling us about Child's Play today. And for anybody who's watching, we're going to have links in the description below for how you can take action with whatever you'd like to do and however you'd like to learn more about this organization. So Travis, again, thanks so much for chatting with us today. It's been great. And I look forward to seeing what you guys are doing this year and beyond. Congratulations on all the big success with Child's Play. And I look forward to a heck of a lot more.
Hey, thanks for sharing us with all of your fans and your community. It's connections like this that find a new person who never heard about us and bring in that new support. So thanks so much.
Absolutely. So, guys, check out Child's Play. And in the meantime, don't forget to stick around here on Nerd News Today because Nerd News Today Toy Fair 2021 is still going. So, stay tuned. We got some more coming right up.